It's my honor to be here once again in Ohr Somayach. I mean, given the keyboard of speaking, I think it's about 25 years or so now that I've been here in the summer and had the pleasure of speaking to you here in Ohr Somayach. As I'm leaving Eretz Yisroel shortly, my topic for tonight is Kedushas Eretz Yisroel, something that's very much on my mind. For many people, Av is a sad month. I feel funny. Av is the month that I'm happy I'm here in Eretz Yisroel. And Elul comes, I'm unhappy, I'm back in Chutz La'aretz. So it's a bit of a twist. I hope I'm where I'm supposed to be at each period in time, but I wish somehow the Rebbeinu Shalom would have me here longer. So an appreciation of Kedushas Eretz Yisroel is somewhat in line. And for all of you who are here all the time, it probably needs a little of a reminder as well. What exactly it means, Kedushas Eretz Yisroel, and how that in any way creates some type of chiyuv on us, or what behavior it's supposed to bring out. The word Kedusha itself, holiness, is a hard word. And it's hard somehow to define exactly what Kedusha is. But I'd like to share with you my thoughts. I have feelings for Eretz Yisroel. I'm not here often. I was at Kever Rachel yesterday. And as we were leaving, I was outside doing what all good Jewish husbands do, waiting patiently for my wife and observing what was going on at Kever Rachel. I couldn't help but thinking, a hustle bustle, the number of Jews that were in Kever Rachel yesterday, just in the 1 hour I was there, was probably more than the total number of Jews that visited Kever Rachel perhaps in a century, during most of the centuries since the Churban. I'm just very happy for Rachel. A lot of Yidden are coming and going, it's alive. When the Ramban came to Eretz Yisroel, whole Eretz Yisroel didn't have as many Jews as visit Kever Rachel in one Bein Hazmanim day. This morning, as it's my last day, I was at the Kaisel for Vasikin. And after davening, I was outside doing what all good Jewish husbands do, waiting for my wife, patiently. It took me about 40 years to master. And I stood there looking at the Kaisel. I just felt happy for the stones of the Kaisel. So many Yidden, so alive. How many Jews visited the Kaisel for most of the centuries since the Churban? The old pictures of the Kaisel being an alleyway with a handful of old bent Jews, for the most part dressed in rags, who made the difficult trip to Eretz Yisroel to be at the Kaisel. And today it's so alive, it's so vibrant. It's people are running everywhere, coming and going. I just felt happy for the walls of the Kaisel. The hergish of Klal Yisrael back in Eretz Yisrael is something we can feel. Is that Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, or is that just a romantic imagery, a happy feeling? What exactly is Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, Kedushas Beis HaKnesses, Kedushas Truma, the Kedusha of everything that we call Kadosh? I doubt Kedushas Truma means to have thoughts about, reminiscing about Truma. So what exactly is it? The parsha this week, in Parshas Re'eh, we read Kol HaBachar Asher Yivoled. The parsha talks about the mitzvah of Bachar. And there's a mitzvah Tagdish, to make it Kodesh. Rashi brings that even though a Bachar, an animal that's born firstborn to its mother, is Kadosh Merechem. The Gemara says coming out of the womb gives a Kedusha. But it's a mitzvah to be Mekadesh Bepeh. Rashi brings, it's a Gemara in 3 different Masechtas, that it's a mitzvah to say about the Bechar, Zu Kadosh. But it's Kadosh anyway. It's Kadosh anyhow. What exactly does it mean that a Bechar that has Kedusha anyhow is a mitzvah to be Tagdish? What does Tagdish mean? You're not being Magdish it. It doesn't get more Kedusha because you're Magdish it. We say Kadesh Li Kol Bechar. What does it mean Kadesh Li? Make Kaddish. How do you make a Kaddish? A Bechar, whatever Kedusha a Bechar has, is inherent whether you like it or not. What's the mitzvah of Tagdish? The Nitziv, in a tshuva, in the second chelik of Meshiv Davar, in tshuva Pei, talks about 5 such instances where there's a mitzvah to be Mekadesh Bepeh, things which apparently have their Kedusha anyway. When you separate Truma or Chala, it says in Yeredeya, it's in Mishim Lamed Aleph, Sif Mem Vav, that Machshava is Mekadesh the Truma. V'nechshav lochem Truma Seichem. If you separate Truma and you think, I want this to be Truma, it's already Truma. Chala, the same thing. If you separate it, you don't say anything. It has Kedushas Truma and Kedushas Chala. Yet, the Gemara always says that a person says Zuchala. Zuchala b'deraimai. That a person verbalizes it. What's the purpose in verbalizing it? If the Kedusha of Truma is Kadesh anyhow. So what we have by Bechar, we have by Truma and Chala as well. He brings other instances. On Yom Kippur, when the Kohen Gadol does a Gairol, on 2 Seirim, one is Kadesh LaHashem. The Gemara says the Gairol Mekadshay, when you pick out the paper that says on it LaHashem, it's Mekadesh, that animal. There are 2 animals, one LaAzazel and one LaHashem. And they drew lots. And the one that came LaHashem was Kaddish. And nevertheless, there's a mitzvah for the Kohen to say, Kadosh LaHashem. You have a third instance, where all instances of Kedusha, where things have an inherent Kedusha, and the Torah gives us a mitzvah, no clear consequence of the dibur, besides the mitzvah to say, but to say Kadosh LaHashem. A fourth example, he talks about the writing of a sefer or a sefer Torah, where you're supposed to be mekadesh it. You say Areini Kaisav L'Shem Kedusha Sefer Torah. The names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're mekadesh. You say I'm writing it L'Shem Shem Hashem. And he writes there, whether it's Makiv or not. But a person, again, he's showing multiple examples where things are Kaddish, and somebody is supposed to say it's Kaddish. You have a mitzvah to say it's Kaddish, even a mitzvah deraisa to say it's Kaddish. Shabbos is the same thing. We'll makabel Shabbos automatically when Shabbos comes. But the Mishnah Berurah brings Hanhaga Taiva, some Rishonim hold Zechiyah, to say Areini Makabel Kedusha Shabbos. On Rosh Chodesh, the Bezdin says Mekudesh, whatever the Kedusha of Rosh Chodesh is, Bezdin verbalizes it. So suddenly we have here multiple places where the dibur is somehow tied to the concept of Kedusha. Now, there's not one type of Kedusha. Truma and the Shem Hashem and the Sefer Torah and the Kedusha of Zman and the Kedusha of a carbon, these are a wide variety of things. The only similarity is that they're all tied to the word Kedusha. In all these examples, the 5 or 6 examples I brought, the Tziv says there's a Kedusha b'peh. And therefore, the Netziv comes to the conclusion that even though things have Kedusha, whatever they may be, something more happens when a Jew verbalizes the Kedusha of the thing that he's talking about. When a Yid says, this is Kaddish, when the Kohen Gadol says Kaddish LaHashem, when the person taking Truma says Truma, and on Shabbos, when a Yid makes Kiddush, it's the same thing. You're being Mekadesh as Shabbos. Baruch Atah Hashem. We praise Hashem. We recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu as Mekadesh Shabbos. Something in that elusive concept of Kedusha is tied to a recognition by a Yid of the Kedusha that's there. And then the Tziv writes very strongly that there's a chaloi, something happens. When you're Mekadesh something b'peh, something happens. Halacha doesn't change. The Bechar is a Bechar whether you're Mekadesh it or not. Happens to be in the Kedusha Reb Shimon and Nidarim. He has a piece on trying to explain what exactly happens when you're Mekadesh a Bechar. But something happens. I read to you from the language of the Netziv. He says, "Hachumashim v'asidurim hanitfasim." Printed chumash and a printed siddur. Toiv sheyiu ha'askarais kedoshim. It's good that someone should be mekadesh the shame when they print it. Kedei sheyoyo lilmaid lilimud u'letfila. Kedemuchich ma'maised Reb Chia dava mekadesh ha'yoser. And he says that it does something. The recognition of Kedusha does something. What does it do exactly? It's moyel lelimud letfilah. It does something that makes a person more connected to Torah and Tefillah. He says, Mishum hachi, hikpida Torah b'sefer Torah shel Melech. We're familiar for the fact that the Melech had a Sefer Torah. She'ei nichtav ha'idei kohanim ha'leviyim, hainu tamidei chachamim. What that means, the Tziv is telling us that when something is Kaddish, the recognition of the elevated status or the special status of something that's Kaddish makes it somehow, it's somehow, it's Mayel, the Torah, it's Mayel, the Tefillah. In any of these things, it's Payel, it does something. Kedusha is an elusive spiritual idea. But something happens when there's a recognition of it. Something happens when there's a hakara, and if it's recognized by past, something happens. The Kohen Gadol says Kodesh LaHashem, something more happens. It doesn't change any particular halachic, there's no ramification on the carbon. But something happens that connects the person to the thing that has Kedusha. This is Netziv's rule. The Netziv is talking there about a very practical shaila, about things, divrei Torah, that are printed in a way that we know they'll be thrown away. Shuls today have piles and piles of papers that are printed and distributed in shuls, and they're printed knowing they'll be thrown out, the homework sheets. And it's a tshuva in which he establishes a yisaid, that these things are allowed to be thrown out, not b'derech b'zayin, they should put in a bag. You can throw them out, because Kedusha is connected to what a Yid makes it Kaddish. The Yid's connection to Kedusha is what gives things Kedusha. Something written with the knowledge it'll be thrown out is allowed to be thrown out. And he adds, Ta'iv Shalom Yaimar. A person shouldn't say b'peh, this is Kaddish, if he's going to throw it out. Tell him. If we're talking about Kedushas Eretz Yisroel, the point that I want to make tonight is that we're at a loss in what it takes to appreciate Kedushas Eretz Yisroel. But we have here a concept that if a person connects to Kedushas Eretz Yisroel, if he verbally connects to Kedushas Eretz Yisroel, to anything that's Kaddish, it's something else. It's something else. It connects. It's mayel tfei. You want Kedushas HaYisrael to be mashpia on you? It has to be something that a person recognizes, that a person has an awareness of. And when a person has an awareness of it, then it's payal. This is the idea regarding Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. There's some sefer, I don't remember which pasuk in Parshas Devarim. He says, if you look throughout Devarim, when Moshe Rabbeinu speaks, he keeps on saying, Eretz Savas Chol V'Dvash. He keeps on describing the Eretz Ha'yer Shabachar Hashem. He keeps on saying Eretz Yisrael is Kaddish. There's some sefer writes that a person should say it. It connects him to it. The dibur to Kedusha connects a person to Kedusha. It's wonderful that we somehow take for granted to be able to be here in Eretz Yisrael. But the recognition, the appreciation, the connection is something that elevates a person, elevates a yid, mayil tfei. The Kedusha helps you more if you stop and you appreciate it. American Bachrim today, it's the style, come to Eretz Yisrael. Whether it's beneficial for their learning or not, we leave for a different discussion. I think the jury is out. But one thing, the Bachrim come, and not enough of them are here to be in Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. It's a thing to do. I meet Bachrim. I ask them, you were at the Kaisel? Last time was the Kaisel, last time you came and we went together. What? You're too much of a masmid to go to the Kaisel? Well, Yashiv was the masmid of the Dar and he didn't go 30 days without going to the Kaisel. He didn't go 30 days even when he was 100 years old. I hope to emulate that. The idea of appreciating Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, the name Eliashiv, the family name Eliashiv, came from a Zayda who was in Eretz Yisrael and had to leave Eretz Yisrael because of a hunger, and he was makabel on himself, a la yashuv, that he's going to go back. The appreciation of Eretz Yisrael, the connection to Eretz Yisrael, the understanding of Eretz Yisrael, the dibur. To speak about Eretz Yisrael, to speak about Klal Yisrael in a proper way, it means something. Nevuah, a Navi can only become a Navi in Eretz Yisrael. All right, it's a din in Hilchas Nevuah. Smicha. For someone to get smicha to be a dayan, the smicha that went back to Moshe Rabbeinu, can only be in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. Maybe it's a din in smicha. Meiser. I don't mean only Meiser that's totally in the Paris Atluim Bar. Meiser Behema. Meiser Behema is a mitzvah in Chutz La'aretz and in Eretz Yisrael. But you can only be makriv Meiser Behema that's born in Eretz Yisrael, a Behema. Meiser in Chutz La'aretz is not, you're not makriv in Eretz Yisrael. It's Kaddish until it gets a mum. It's a din in Meiser. It's a din in Smicha. It's a din in Nevuah. It's a din in Meiser. Maybe it's a din in Eretz Yisrael. Kvura, burial. V'chipar ad masayami. It's a mila to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. I want to tell you something. In 1982, I lost a brother, and our family, for the first time, had to decide where to have kvuras for the family. My father came from Europe, and there was no set place in his family, and he chose a place in America. So at that time, to buy karka, I had to decide at a young age, do I want to be buried there? I don't want to be buried. I want Mashiach to come, and the Tchias Mason. We all hope to be the generation that doesn't need it, but. So I had to decide. I spoke to my Rebbe. I spoke to Rav Pam. Rav Pam said, I'm a supik all the time. The one hand, Eretz Yisrael. On the other hand, there's a man, the Armin Yerushalmi, says, you're being mevaz Eretz Yisrael. You're sending dead bodies to Eretz Yisrael. Send live bodies to Eretz Yisrael. Don't send dead bodies. He said, I'm a supik all the time. I don't know. It's interesting, when he became ill towards the end of his life, He said to me, I know you're thinking about, and you're not going to ask me about this topic. He said, I decided to be buried in Chutz La'aretz. Yerushalmi says such a strong lashon about being mevaz Eretz Yisrael. You don't go when you're alive, you go when you're buried. Dead bodies, you're shipping to Eretz Yisrael. I'm not talking about where to be buried. I'm talking about Eretz Yisrael. The appreciation of Eretz Yisrael, the connection to Eretz Yisrael, the idea of being mevaza. What do you mean mevaza Eretz Yisrael? Who's Eretz Yisrael to be embarrassed? Kvura has a mile in Eretz Yisrael, Nevuah and Smicha and everything. Maybe our learning has a mile in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe our davening. Maybe there's a sense and appreciation of the things that we can do, the things that we can connect with. You have to talk about Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. You have to reflect on Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. You have to appreciate when we walk these streets that Eretz Yisrael, there weren't Yidden in Eretz Yisrael till our generation. My grandfather, after whom I'm named, never imagined that his grandson would see an Eretz Yisrael that has millions of Jews. His wildest dreams. That's 2 generations back. The appreciation of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us. Appreciation. A lot of tummeling about problems with the government and the army and the Yeshiva Bachrim. Maybe we should talk about the fact that for 75 years, the government has supported Kol Yungalite. Maybe we should say something good about this whole thing. Do we appreciate it? Appreciate it. Chazal describe Rekonim Shabach Malaya Mitzvahs Karimayim. What's happening now is terrible. I'm not taking away from it. But maybe we should speak out to certain Chibas Yisrael and Abbas Yisrael and Abbas Eretz Yisrael. Maybe we don't appreciate enough. Maybe. We're malumid that when there are problems, we don't look at what they could do different. We look at what we could do different. What can we do different? Maybe it's a tefillah that we have to have an appreciation of it. There's so much good to reflect on. So I started by saying that my thoughts have to do with the ideas of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, the appreciation of Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, the connection to Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, the talking about Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, the expression of how fortunate we are to be here in Eretz Kedusha, to be in Eretz Yisrael. I always imagine 2 friends coming up the Yom Adin, Lachamei V'Esrim, and somehow they come to the Yom Adin together. They daven together every morning. So one of them, they bring in schar for davening shachris. They bring in a big pile of schar and they put it on the scale. His friend is next to him. He says, okay, bring in his schar for shachris. So they bring in this pile. It's 35 times as big. And they put it on the scale. He says, what's going on? We daven together. You don't have so much more kavanah than me. You're piling on him 35, 40 times as much schar as me? What's going on? So the Malach tells him, there's a chazal, that if you're from the Asara Rishainim, you get the schar of everyone who came. There are about 35, 40 people in shul. So he gets the schar, kenega kulam. So the other one says, I heard of that. You mean that for real? It's real? Chazal say they really meant it? What are you thinking? Chazal say Asara Rishainim gets schar, and I go, what are you thinking exactly? I go, when there's a sale, and they tell you buy one, get 35 free, you don't say, serious? They really mean that? You don't say that. You say, wow, sign me up. Sign me up. So Chazal say it, and what do you think? What are you thinking? So Chazal tell us about Eretz Yisrael. They tell us about somebody who doesn't live in Eretz Yisrael, it's like you're not connected to God. Eretz Yisrael, you're connected. How are you connected? If you're not connected, you're not connected. It's available. It's available. If you feel that you're walking on the streets where the Gedolei Yisrael, the Nevi'ei Yisrael, everybody walked, if you feel you're walking on those streets, so you're there. You're there. If you don't feel it, you don't know it, what exactly do you have? What exactly do you have? A hergish, a feeling. Chaim Shmulevitz came from Poland, and the Polish Jews had a habit of spitting just when there was saliva in their mouth and mucus, they would spit it out. Chaim said when he entered Yerushalayim, he didn't spit on the ground. He wouldn't spit on the ground. Yerushalayim, he spit on the ground. He said it was very hard for him to get used to it. When he saw garbage on the floor, he'd pick it up. Nowadays, he'd be busy all day. But there's a certain hergish Eretz Yisrael. They spit on Eretz Yisrael. So some yeshiva bachrim here, they came into Davin. They came from America for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They come, and their shirt is tucked out. They're in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, Yofnei HaMelech, you go into the palace of the king. And at least here. So who am I to talk? I'm heading to the airport. I'm going to an airplane where I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but in my imagination, the Rebbeinu Shalom wants me to be a delegate of Klal Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz. I was once on a plane. We were on the plane, and we had to get off, whatever the problem was. And people were angry. The Frum Yidden weren't angry. It was a little after 2. You had to get your luggage again. You had to go to passport control again, the whole shebang. And we said, I'll meet you at the Kaisel, 24 more hours in Eretz Yisrael, not so bad. Someone will tell me, I'll tiftach pel Sutton tonight, if it should happen to you. I'll say, Yada Rabba. Maybe I'll see you again tomorrow. But my hergish is a hergish I'm fortunate enough to have, but only because I'm not here. The Chabina Rav came to Eretz Yisrael, and he lived here. He said he doesn't miss anything from Chutz La'aretz, but one thing he misses. His tshuka for Eretz Yisrael. In Chutz La'aretz, he had this tremendous tshuka. So I'm hiring you to it. As man is beginning, and El's man is beginning. Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, appreciate it. When you walk the streets, appreciate it. When you see Yidden living here, appreciate it. When you look at Arzei Abira, know that when I was in elementary school, that was no man's land. Jordan was across the highway, and the other side was the so to speak, Jewish half of Yerushalayim, and Arzei Abira was no man's land. That's why one of the first buildings that went up after the 67 war, Arzei Abira, they were the new modern buildings at that time. And you walk out, that's what you can see. Appreciate HaKadosh Baruch Hu's gift. And so, even as I head to the airport, I daven that we should all be Zaycha. Yerushalayim Ircha Barachman Tashuv. We should be Zaycha to Yerushalayim the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it to be. But in the meantime, we're here. We have HaKadosh Baruch Hu's gift. Don't waste the gift. Don't come upstairs and say, oh, that stuff about Eretz Yisrael, you really meant it? You really meant it? You came to Yisrael, the Yeshiva Bachram came to Eretz Yisrael. I also came. You really meant it? Eretz Yisrael is a place that you could be kind of Kedusha. Appreciate it. Have an Ava for Eretz Yisrael. Have an Ava for everything in Eretz Yisrael. My Rebbe, Rav Palm, used to say, Nivra hapeh Elalumay Torah, Elalumay Tzchus al Klal Yisrael. You have a mouth to learn, and to mimlam tzchus on Yidden, to say good things about Yidden everywhere, certain about Artzeinu HaKadosh. So Ashreichem that you're not joining me. May we all be Zaycha to appreciate Eretz Yisrael, to absorb Kedushas Eretz Yisrael, to appreciate every step we take in Eretz Yisrael. America is becoming more and more Megushim. My report from Chutz La'aretz is getting worse and worse. It's getting fancier and fancier. It's becoming nuttier and nuttier. People are totally insane. People are totally crazy. They go to the store, and if something is available cheaper and more expensive, they assume more expensive is better, and that's what they buy. And houses are becoming fancier, more and more chitzonius, less and less panemius. Bothers me when there are products here. It says on a Kamay America. The secular Jews here want to have everything Kamay America. We don't want Kamay America. We want Kamay Yerushalayim. We be zeicha to absorb the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, all of us. And I'll try as much as I could to inhale very strongly the Avira Da'ara. And I'm afraid I'll have to exhale before I get to the States. But halavai, the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael should be something that accompanies me, that accompanies all of us. Elazman in Eretz Yisrael. The Gra dreamt of it. The Chafetz Chaim dreamt of it. They dreamt of it. It was elusive to them. Chaparain, appreciate Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. Like the Netziv says, if you say it, yoyel, it's going to help for you. It's yoyel Torah, it's yoyel Tefillah, it's yoyel Limud. It'll help all of you. Ksiva Simatayva to one and all. It should be a good gebench the upcoming year for all of Klal Yisrael, wherever they are, especially for the B'nai Torah here in Eretz HaKadosh. A good year.